Welcome everybody to Dallas Programmable Robotics Group Robot Builders Night Virtual for November 25th, 2025. We had a successful RoboColumbus on Saturday. There were a few participants, and overall it went pretty good. The video will be posted, I'm assuming, later this week. So look forward to it'll either be posted on Discord or in the DPRG list or on the website. So to start things off, we have Matthew with a short presentation about MicroMouse.
Sure. So as many of you are already aware, I've been working on a high-speed maze-solving robot. I'll share my screen. Can you all see this?
Yeah, I'm going to pin it for everyone.
Okay. So I think last time I talked a bit about some of the challenges I had on the first revision of the circuit board. The first revision was a bit larger, but I made a few mistakes on the sensors and I messed up the soldering on the gyroscope. So I fixed the sensor circuit, and on this one, I'm actually going to have the PCB manufacturer do the assembly. So that's going to solve a few things. One, I'm very likely going to get a much higher quality solder job than what I could do manually. And second, my hot plate is very small. It's only about 3 inches by 3 inches. So on the first revision, I had to make sure all of the electronics were in that 3 inch by 3 inch square, and that greatly limited where I could put parts on the board. So this one, it's a bit larger than 3 inches by 3 inches. It's less than 3 inches wide, but it's longer than it's longer than 3 inches. So that is not a problem for the PCB manufacturer, and they can assemble boards of really any size. So this is allowing me to space the parts out in a more efficient manner. So I talked about this part last week, but the part that's new is I'm working on creating the component placement files. So when you have a PCB being manufactured by an external company, you have to tell them exactly where on the board these components are going to be. So they use an origin on the board somewhere. It's usually based on one of the corners, and then your components are placed at those X and Y coordinates. So I've been working on getting that file prepared. There were a couple of challenges. The first one is that the PCB manufacturer has standard components. They have these giant industrial-sized pick and place machines. So they like to load common components onto those machines. Typically different values of capacitors and resistors and probably other types of transistors as well. Very commonly used parts. So if you use those exact part numbers, then there is no fee for them to switch out the different types of components. So I had to adjust my bill of materials to use those cheaper components. There were some cases where they didn't have the components. In particular, they didn't have the microcontroller. They didn't have the 2 large motor connectors here at the back, and they didn't have op-amp that's being used to amplify the readings from the photodiode. So I had to order those separately, and they like to charge you an arm and a leg for that because they have to source them and then have them shipped to their warehouse. Even though they charged a lot, the total cost for the assembly and the manufacturing of the PCB is just over $100, which is very stunning, actually. If you were to have this done in the US, it would probably cost over 500. I was looking at this one company in Dallas, and they charged an $800 minimum. So it's almost 8 times cheaper to have it done by JLC. So that's where I'm at now. I am getting the component replacement files and adjusting the bill of materials so I can get this done as quickly and as cheaply as possible. Based on the ETAs that I've gotten from JLC, they're going to have the parts that I need in-house by the 12th. So that is when I will be making this order. And in the meantime, I'm testing what I can on the board that I do have. So I'm hoping to have something ready, about 2 weeks after the 12th. So time is running short. The competition is in March. Starting to feel the pressure. But that's all I have for tonight.
So for fabrication, for like populating the boards and everything, if you were to do 2 boards, would the cost double or would there be a substantial savings there?
Yeah, I should have included. Actually, on the quote is with 2 assembled boards because that's the minimum that they'll do. If I want more, then of course they'll charge more. But on the quote for about $150 is for 2 boards assembled plus 3 non-assembled boards.
Okay.
So the PCB manufacturing minimum is 5 boards, and then the PCB assembly is 2 boards. So out of the 5 that they assemble, or out of the 5 that they manufacture, they'll assemble 2 of them.
Okay.
Unfortunately, actually, they won't have the these back motor connectors until the 21st. So I told them to just cancel that one, and I'll just order them on myself since I can't really afford to wait another week to have this in hand.
Question for you. I have in the past, I used to buy boards from them for $2 and $1.80 to have them shipped. How has the tariffs and all affected that?
It's not too bad. If I'm just having the boards manufactured with a ENIC finish, it's like $20. I think. Well, so last time I was warned, that there could possibly be a tariff added to the order that I would have to pay independently. They were implying that customs or whoever would look at the packages would attach a bill to the envelope, but that never happened, and I got my boards. I think they were like $50 or $60, which was very high. So I'm assuming they baked the cost of the tariff into the board cost. I'm hoping that stops soon because it sucks having your $20 board turn into $60.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Matthew?
I'll just say it seems so luxurious to have a design built and ready to go so far in advance. I'm used to robotics teams who, like this at this last Saturday's meet, are assembling the robot for the first time the night before, and pulling an all-nighter.
I'll say that there's nothing built yet. There's still a lot that has to be done, especially on the software side. I've done probably almost as much of the software as I can do without having the robot. I've simulated most of the pathfinding and most of the control flows, but until I get the robot, I'm not going to be able to calibrate any of the PID loops, the sensors, and the second part of this build is not just the robot, it's the maze itself. You can't simply buy pre-made mazes that are built to the micro mouse specifications, so I'm going to have to build that one too.
That's going to be fun. That's more of a woodworking project.
Yeah, Unfortunately, I do a little bit of woodworking as well, so it's not completely new to me, but still, it's something that I need to do. I might try to have my dad do it. He's been doing woodworking longer than me, and he actually has a shop. I have to drive to the makerspace whenever I want to do that kind of stuff, and it's very inconvenient.
Dads are great for woodworking.
Oh yeah,
Offload. Yeah.
he's got a nice huge table saw, a router table, a drill press, all the fancy Festool stuff. It's great.
Thinking
yeah,
of
but the makerspace has a huge CNC machine. You could probably throw a 4x8-foot sheet of plywood up on it, and if you did like just a grid of I don't know what the width is, 6 inches or something.
It's about 16.5 inches after you factor in the wall size. I have a CAD model of it, or I have a CAD model of it, but I'm in my Linux boot right now, so I can't access the SolidWorks, but maybe next time I can show that.
I was going to say, if you just route, a grid of paths or grid of areas, you could just slide in, barriers of whatever length and kind of make your own paths.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's going to happen. It's going to be a piece of black MDF that has holes drilled into it for pegs, and then the walls can be attached to those pegs, so I can create any maze configuration that I want. There's different types of structures that the thing is going to have to be able to navigate. There's wider turns, there's diagonals. I'm not going to worry too much about the diagonals, primarily because the
diagonals. Oh, I didn't think it could have diagonals. I thought it was all,
They're
gridded
jaggedy
off.
diagonals.
Yeah, jaggedy ones.
Jaggedy ones.
But they have really long runs of diagonals, and the robots that do really well know how to shoot the diagonals, even though they're jaggedy. So they have to be very accurate in their sensing of where the corners are.
Here, let me. I'm sharing my screen. I'll show you what I mean.
So, does it have walls on this thing, or what?
It's a standard grid size, right? What's the grid size?
So on the grid is 18 by 18 centimeters, but after you factor in the wall width, it's just under 18 by 18. See, here are the jaggedy diagonals. You can see on the long path. So the best mice will be able to handle those. But I talked about this last time. This robot is not designed to be competitive. The competitive ones have vacuum fans to suck them down. They have 4 wheels. This robot is designed solely to get my foot in the door and to get something done in time. After it's done and I've competed, then it's time for the fun part, the optimization and making it much, much faster.
But the diagonals don't have to be, you don't even have to jig through them, right? If your robot's small enough, you can just shoot it straight.
Exactly. The robot that I'm building right now, it's actually small enough to go diagonally down the half-sized micro mouse maze, and I'm doing the full size. So I've got plenty of leeway.
Cool.
I don't intend on competing in the half size. I believe they only do that in Japan and Taiwan, and I don't have any plans to travel there in the near future. But I made it so small so there's less chance of me crashing even in the full size.
Right.
So on Thingiverse, they have where you could have little connectors that effectively would do with cardboard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know offhand. It's been several months since I've seen it, so you might search there for maze and building of a maze.
Mm-hmm.
Connectors.
That's a lot of material to print.
No.
Building the maze.
They use cardboard for the main structure with connectors.
Mhm.
to connect the pieces together.
Mhm. I think I'm going to end up doing a quarter size maze, and I'm going to try to make it as competition accurate as possible. So I'm going to be using the same materials that they use. I thought about using my 3D printer to print the posts, but honestly, if you have a table saw or a router table, you can take a piece of wood and plane it or cut it down to the right size, and then use the router table to cut any grooves that you need. It should go pretty quick.
Well, your idea of drilling holes and having, the boards have pegs on them sounds like it might be a lot less work if you could do, I guess if you put like 2 holes in each segment or something.
So I pulled up a picture on the screen. You can kind of see the peg design. It's a square piece of wood that has grooves cut on all 4 sides,
Mhm.
and then the walls have the mating pattern on them, so you can slide them
Oh,
in.
yeah.
So
So
it's almost like a tongue and groove post.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I think that's sort of what they had on Thingiverse, something like that, only it was
Mhm.
more, they used cardboard and it was basically the cardboard slide into the slot.
hmm
So somewhat the same concept.
Yeah, I guess I could do that actually. I mean, yeah,
For the
as,
post part, you could, use the
as
3D printer.
as long as the walls are reflective, I should be good. It doesn't really matter how reflective because I do plan on modulating the signal, so it's going to filter out any ambient light. So as long as there is a signal that's being reflected in roughly the 30 kilohertz range, I should be able to tune it to whatever the lighting conditions are on competition day. So yeah, that could work. I could just have posts and then slide cardboard or paper into there. That could work as well. It's in theory that the robot should not be touching the walls. If it's touching the walls, we have problems. Well, actually, it could touch the walls. They have some robots, if they get to a dead end, they will actually back up to touch the wall, and that's how they recalibrate their XY position because they know exactly where they are. So I guess it does have to be rigid enough.
So have you thought about Lego blocks?
Lego?
Yeah. As I'm looking at instructables on Maze, I see a Lego thing that they use to make one. So I'm thinking that might be a possible. Let me see if I can pop it in.
There's probably an official field
With-
construction guide and
Yeah, that's what I'm
materials
thinking.
choices.
So yeah, I was wondering how thick the walls are, how tall they are, variables like that.
I've been trying to find one for sale, I could just buy, but if, for example, here this was $1,000, like I could do it for a small fraction of that myself. I've already spent enough on this robot. I really don't. I want to spend $1,000 on the maze.
I could do it for twice that much, and you pay the shipping.
Oh, heck yeah! That sounds like a great deal for me. They're shipping all the way from Canada.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too expensive. Just remortgage your house.
I don't know. Well, on with these tariffs, I don't know, man. They'll probably hit me with some
That's a
massive
whole other
tariffs.
topic. So
You can take it up with my president.
that looks interesting. It's I hope to be able to watch it and see how it turns out because it looks cool.
Yeah, I'll be taking some videos along the way. I'll try to throw up a documenting video after it's done.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing.
Of course. Yeah. That's all I have. So you're free to move on to the next person.
Okay. Well, next we had Trish to give us a VEX Robotics competition update. Are you there, Trish? If you're there, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know me, I mentor VEX Robotics teams, and this year I'm the president of the Robotics Club at my son's high school. And I got together with some friends and formed a nonprofit so we could put on our own events. And I'm finally got a break this week, so I got to join one of the meetings because we've been right in the middle of a heavy competition season. So the first two tournaments that we went to were local, and we basically, our three teams were our only competition. And so we swept the tournament championship, we swept top awards. It was great. The kids loved it. Then a couple of days ago, we went up to Indianapolis to compete in a signature event with 110 teams from around the country. And these teams were a lot better than us, a lot more experienced than us. And they still made it to the semifinals, which was good, but they didn't do as well as they were hoping. But it was interesting to see the different way that they compete. Like, we're used to playing offensively, and up there they play defensively. So they had to come up with new strategies, kind of, you know, off the top of their heads. And since the play was so much more defensive, our robots really got beat up. The amount of shrapnel that was left out on the field after these competitions was crazy. So now all of our teams are rebuilding to get ready for December tournaments. So that's what's going on with them. And my nonprofit, we're actually putting on our first big tournament in January, MLK weekend at the Irving Convention Center. And we were shocked to sell out in a weekend. So we've got 92 teams coming from 8 different states. And so now none of us have ever done anything like this before. So we're kind of figuring it out as we go.
That's interesting. I would suggest maybe reaching out to some of our other groups that have done competitions before. Maybe they have some tips on how to host and make sure it's a success to help you guys out.
Oh yeah, we've been in contact with a lot of other organizers, and as a matter of fact, when we were up at in Indianapolis this weekend, we got together with the team that runs it. So I didn't work the tournament at all. They just let me shadow their organizers to see how they do it.
Oh, that's some really good experience.
Did you say
Yeah.
shrapnel earlier?
Yes. So these bots, the way that we've been playing regionally is very offensive. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to get these blocks into 4 different scoring places. And normally we just play very offensively, and they're just trying to get as many blocks in the scoring places as they can. But up in this tournament, they had teams that they've been competing since August. We've only been competing since October. And so they've kind of went up a level in their competition. So they're playing defensively. So they are smashing into other robots to get them so they can't score. And so when they're smashing into the other robots, it's making parts fly off.
Oh, so I was thinking that this was some kind of battle bots or combat robotics competition.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, VEX Robotics is not supposed to be like that. There's actually rules about how hard you can hit and how long you can hold, they call it. And so they've got, usually there's 4 refs that are watching every match to make sure that no one's breaking the rules about how defensive they are with each other. But it's just something our teams were totally unprepared for. So they weren't built sturdy enough. So yeah, all of our teams are rebuilding, but it was a really good experience for them. And it's really doing them a service because they're hoping to get to the World Championship. And, you know, if they just play the teams around here and they don't know how to play defensively, then they're not going to make it in Worlds.
Sounds
like
cool.
valuable experience earned there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's all I have because I don't get, now that I'm in charge and I have to do all the boring administrative stuff, I don't get to do as much mentoring. So I don't know as much about the bots this year as I did last year. That makes me sad, but no one else wanted to be in charge. So
You got voluntold to be in charge.
yes. Yes, is that Kareem I hear laughing at me?
No, that's
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I'm laughing along with you. I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
rules apply everywhere. Don't make eye contact during meetings.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that
Very
update,
true.
Trish. Next up, we have Ray.
Okay. Well, I have been playing around with Copilot, and I know I'm probably the only one that has been playing around with Copilot. I'm sure everybody else is using something else, Claude or Chat GPT-5 or something a lot more sophisticated. But it was kind of curious to see what it could do. I think it seemed like it did remember previous sessions, like if I, got out of Copilot and came back in the next day, it seemed to remember, kind of the sequence of changes that were made and that kind of stuff. And from what I understand, I thought some of the stuff that Kareem was doing, that if you didn't store off a session, it wouldn't remember it. So, but Kareem's doing a lot more
Well,
sophisticated stuff.
it's more like I wanted to have a record of the sessions in case the cache was interrupted. So within each of these tools, you can manage the conversation, and then if you can usually restore it from the local cache. But sometimes you really need to switch to a different conversation. But then if you want to come back, then it's better to have like a record of it so you can reload it. You can just tell it, go read this previous session, and now you're back on the same project again. And that works independent of which particular tool that you have if you store it in the repo. Because I'll like use multiple tools, multiple different AI agents, and some are browser based, some are in like Windsurf, and some are in IDE that's a command line based.
Okay.
So I just store all of the conversation as a record, so I can go back to it from any tool I want.
Yeah, I mean, Copilot will store that. I think that's what you're referring to, Ray. But I think you do want to, I don't want to say frequently, but you do have to at some point always start a new session, right? Because if you don't start a new session, it's gonna kind of include that history in its context, and it's gonna get confused. I mean, I whenever I'm asking it to implement a different feature, right, that's sufficiently distinct from what I was just asking it to do 10 minutes ago, I start a new session, right? So it doesn't get confused. Now, if I'm asking it to make a tweak to what it just did, right, well, then I stay within that session.
Yeah, it'll do it there. Yeah, so I don't know. I was anyway, I can kind of tell you what I was trying to do. I have two pulse light lidars. They're not rotating. It's just single distance measurement. I do have them on servos. I kind of like Scott's idea. He's got 3 of those on the front of his robot. And so kind of the whole purpose to have them is for obstacle avoidance. So the kind of the scenarios are, you come up to some obstacle. In the case of the course at Steve's, it was a lot of grass, tall grass. And these are good. Well, he's using Benewakis. These are good for like 40 meters. I think the Benewakis are good for 12, which is more than enough distance because you're not going that fast, and you don't need that kind of distance. Anyway, so the thing was to have them like pointing out straight or maybe a little bit outwardly skewed because you want to cover a path for the wheels, or a wide enough path so that the wheels can go through without hitting an obstruction. And then looking at the distance on the left and distance on the right. And one of the things you can do is say, okay, if it's like below some threshold, then I'm going to start avoiding things. Otherwise, I'm going to follow GPS waypoints, from where I'm at to where I want to be. Anyway, so kind of simplistically, if you see something that's less than 150 centimeters away, meter and a half, say on the left side, you want to turn to the right to try to avoid it, and vice versa. You see something on the right side, you want to turn the opposite direction to avoid that. So anyway, these are, I started out with just one on a servo, but it's, rotating at just 5 degrees to try to reduce the number of conversions. It's still very slow. And if I slow down the robot speed, it can keep up. If I speed it up to like walking speed or probably the speed that, Scott was driving his robot, it doesn't keep up. So, and ends up pushing the bumper into whatever obstacle there was, and at a good enough speed to break the bumper. So I've gone through a couple bumpers and said, okay, well, that's not going to work. So anyway, so then I put 2 on 2 servos. They may rotate, maybe 10 degrees to kind of cover, a certain distance in front of the robot, and then, maybe just a little outward to cover, to get in front of the wheels so that there's a wide enough path to go through. But that's it. That's, it's not going to do, initially with the one on a servo, I was doing 90 degrees, but that's way too slow. Oh, anyway, so it seems like Copilot will recognize sensors. Like I can tell it, okay, I've got an Adafruit Cutie Pie, I've got an OLED display, and I've got these 2 pulse light sensors, and I want to use them in PWM mode, but PWM mode with triggering. So, and then, I said, okay, I want to stagger the triggering so that they, the interrupt service routines won't clash or won't interfere. And, and I gave it, I said, each one should trigger at 20 milliseconds and, be staggered by 10 milliseconds. So, both of them are triggering at 20, but staggered by 10. And, it said, okay, that's great. We can, generate that timing easily by using timers in the Cutie Pie. And I thought, oh, okay, that's great. And then it suggested, okay, why don't we do some filtering? I don't know if I would have come up with that suggestion. So, that's great again. And it had, I think, let's see, I think it was exponential filtering and medium filtering. And that does seem to work. I can look at the raw values. I can look at the filtered values or smoothed values, as it calls it. And the smooth values don't flicker around nearly as much as the raw values do. It seems like it's giving the right distance readings for each. So I thought I'd take a look at the timing, and the timing is screwed up. It is not doing what I thought it was going to do for the 20 millisecond intervals, and the second one staggered 10 milliseconds, but still on a 20 millisecond interval. So I was a little disappointed about that. I thought it was working really well, and I thought, oh, this is great. It seems like a lot of the code that it finds, and most of it that I was developing or trying to create routines for was in ESP32. In a lot of cases, things wouldn't compile. I'd say, okay, well, I'm getting a compile here, and it would say, okay, here, make these, make these changes, see if it'll work. I'd get different compile errors, and at one point I just said, nope, I'm giving up. It's just not able to find the routines or, generate the code that I want it to. And so I was kind of wondering, what most people's experience was, what they found, for that kind of development where you say, okay, I've got this processor, these sensors, I want them to work this way, or, in a certain mode, or, whether it's pulse width or I2C or whatever. What is the general consensus? Is there one out there that works best for that?
Well, okay, I can tell you what I've been doing lately. With Copilot also, I've been trying other tools as well, including other plugins, extensions in Visual Studio Code, like the Codex extension. But I've been doing Copilot a lot because that's what we use at work also. So I will say that you do probably, for what you're trying to do, you may have to give it the documentation of some of these things explicitly.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah, I mean, and I've been having good luck with giving it full documents of stuff, of specs. Now, the Copilot extension doesn't deal with Word documents, so in that case I have to convert it from Word first to a markdown file, and there are tools out there that'll do that. The Copilot that's built into Windows, it deals better with Word documents, so it has its own advantages there sometimes. So, but if you have a markdown file or a text file, I have it in my source, in my repo. I reference that in the prompt, right? There's ways you can reference files to say, hey, look at this file here. That's the spec for this thing. Refer to that, in the context of this prompt. So I've found it to be good at that. And the other thing that even the Visual Studio Code, the documentation will tell you that you should do is you should create things like a copilot-instructions.md file. So it's where you're explaining it, you sort of laying down some ground rules, right, that it has to follow. Or even you're just explaining the architecture of your code base, right? So it just doesn't have to figure certain things out again and again every time you prompt it. You just give it certain facts, right? That it then always, again, it pulls that into the context as needed. So that, I think that helps also a lot. But in your case, I think giving it the documentation explicitly rather than assuming that it's all in its pre-trained knowledge is maybe what you have to do. Now, sometimes it's smart enough to reach out on the internet and pull down what it needs. But again, the more hints you can give it, right? I think the more luck you'll have. And then one more thing, it does come down a lot to what model you're using. So what model have you been using?
It's model, boy, I don't know. I think it was.
Is it auto, or did you select a specific model, like a specific GPT model or Gemini, right? There's a selection that you can make.
It's on GP Smart. It says GPT-5.
GPT-5. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's one where you have to really tell it how much thinking you want it to do.
Uh-huh.
If you don't do that, it'll make its own decisions about it based on what it thinks its complexity is, and that's always based on its trained data and not not necessarily what you supply it with, unless you use you can actually use words like think deeply through this and force it to go into thinking mode, but then it might be a bit more costly.
Is that true in the GitHub Copilot extension, Karim? I know what you're saying is very much true in the
It's in the
chat
CLI.
interface.
It's also in the CLI if you do it that way.
Okay.
But I haven't used it in Copilot like VS Code. I use Windsurf, so I have access to all of the models, but I don't do them through the Copilot optimizations that Microsoft sort of slathers on top of it, even though their stuff is OpenAI based.
Okay.
But the way, so I tend to use more Claude, more Opus, but that gets pricey unless you're paying for the plan.
What-
But
What plan do you have, Ray? Do you have like a GitHub free plan, or do you have like a GitHub $20 a month plan? Or
I have whatever Copilot
Ray.
provides for free.
Okay,
No plans.
that will be a limiting factor. Do you run up against usage limits? Yeah.
Not yet.
No?
No,
Okay.
I've gone all night making modifications and testing code and
with
it even seems to know,
GPT-5,
like-
I'm surprised because again, I'm just looking at my drop down here. GPT-5 is considered a premium model, so it's accounting for it at the 1x rate. So I have, with my $20 a month account, I get like 300 or so premium requests. If I use like GPT-5 mini, which is fairly useless, that costs me nothing, but it's also useless.
Yeah.
So I because I'm logged in, I don't even know what choices you get when you when you're in the free account. But yeah, it doesn't matter what model you use. They have all the pros and cons. I found GPT 5.1 Codex, which is the latest, or well, until recently was the latest OpenAI coding model. I have had very good success with that, because that one is famous for its instruction following. So depending on what you're trying to do, right? Some of the things I'm doing, it's got to follow instructions down to the T. So it's good at that. It's excruciatingly slow, however. Sonnet, the Anthropic stuff, I found it's almost like is a better software engineer, but not as intelligent. So it's very verbose. So if I'm trying to add comments to code, I go to Sonnet 4.5 from Anthropic. It wants to generate comments. It wants to generate text. It wants to generate tests on its own and run tests. I mean, it kind of does a lot of that. So it's very good for certain things, and then the OpenAI stuff is very good for other things. So it does depend a lot on what model you're using and how you prompt it and how you're set up, right? So you do need to give it the Copilot instructions file. If you have a big code base, you do need to give it documentation for certain things that if you expect it to use a certain library correctly, I would say attach the documentation.
Never let it rely on its pre-trained data. Like the stuff that I do with RAWs is always very recent, and it makes bad decisions based on sort of pulling in older patterns and understandings about the libraries. So I always go to, like, if I have a repo on GitHub, I'll go to git ingest and then give it the repo's URL, and it'll pull everything from that repo and turn it into an MD file. And these agents all love parsing MD files. So I put that markdown as a resource in my project, and I also never start out with the thing I want. I always start out asking it to help me build a product requirements document that will define what it is that I want. And then I'll ask it to give me an architecture from that high level document. And then I'll ask it to do PRDs for individual modules that I have in mind. And I'll spend like, half a day defining what it is I want it to do, so that I know that it's really going to try and do that. Because you really have to steer these things, unless you really want to just play with vibe coding.
Mm-hmm. That's what I do too, Karim, is I decide, okay, I want to do this one thing, whatever this one thing is. And I start off by talking to Windsurf, going, hey, listen, I don't want you to do anything. I want you to go look at my code base, and we're going to do this with this folder, or this. We're going to implement this, and it's going to have these files involved. Please go look at them and make me a list of things you're going to do, and let me look at that before we do anything. And invariably, we spend probably an hour or two on even a small feature, correcting it. It has misassumptions all the time. So no, I told you we're not going to do that. Okay, let me go do that. Let me go not do that. And it gives me back the list. And then when I get satisfied with the outline of all the steps that I have to go do, I say do it. And I've had way more success by taking that extra amount of time up front and letting it go.
And it's a resource, because you got to be able to go back to it, because even if you get it all well defined and it starts off on the right path, and if you're doing something a little bit complex, by the time you get down to your 10th, 12th, 15th prompt, it's sort of lost track at that point. It's like focused in on what bug it's trying to resolve that you've noticed or whatever, and then it sort of forgets the broader context, because even though they have these larger context windows these days, they can still get lost in it. And you got to be able to tell it, go back and read this resource again. This is what we're working on, right? Just to get it to focus again. Context poisoning is like the biggest problem with using these models on complex projects.
Okay.
I found just like when you give some project to a junior person, I'm not saying they just haven't been in the thing in the space that you've been in as much and that kind of stuff, that you got to do exactly what Karim does. You got to watch it, because as soon as it starts, you can't let it do too much at once, because at some point it will go off. It's not if it goes off the rails, it will go off the rails. And do you want it to go? You want to catch it as soon as you do, because when it goes off the rails, it usually goes way off into the weeds. And before it's done, you look at what you gave you, and you're like, I can't make heads or tails of this. And it'd take you a day and a half to figure out what it did and try to figure out how to get back from that, And so, yeah, I'm agreeing with Karim there. I just usually just walk through, hey, I want you to do this next, and do this next, and do this next, and do this next, and that. No, that's the wrong thing. Okay, back that up. Okay, because of this. Now I want you to do, okay, and we go forward. And like I say, you got to treat it like it's a 5-year-old, but it's not a 5-year-old because of other things. But it's also not it's got skills of the junior development, or a person can go look up a bunch of stuff real fast, but doesn't sometimes know how to properly use that knowledge. And you got to kind of guide it.
Yeah, that's been my experience in very lightly using things, is that it's a very diligent technician, if you will, but it's not very, it does go off in the weeds.
Okay. Yeah, looking at the icon for it, Smart GPT-5 was selected, and I guess they were quick response, It's, there's another selection, 2 to 3 seconds, best for everyday conversation. Think deeper. Response time is like 30 seconds.
So are you in Visual Studio Code? Because it doesn't, it doesn't resonate what you're describing with the user experience that I'm used to. So I don't know, again, maybe it's because you're on the free account, or can you just share your screen?
Sure. Yeah. I'm just, and that's the other thing I do. I say, I take whatever code it generates, and or say, this is for, the Arduino IDE, and it seems to know that as well. So it gives me, the right format, at least to try to compile it. So, okay, yeah, I can share my screen.
And
Have you got
does
it
it
configured so it can watch it compile?
Say that again?
Have you got it configured so it can watch it compile and even run the compile for you and
No.
watch the debug logs and stuff like that? Once you
Nope.
get that figured out, it goes way faster.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes some setup. I mean, life's easier in Python because, again, some models like Sonnet, they'll create unit tests, they'll run unit tests, and it's all easy in Python, right? But for C, C++ stuff, especially for an embedded target, you have to put some plumbing in place first sometimes, so it knows how to compile, and you can see the warnings and the errors, and sometimes there's some setup needed.
There we go.
That's why I tend to use the CLI tools. So
Interesting.
Okay. Where is it? Okay, there it is. Let's see if I can get that up. Oh, did something wrong. Okay, you're presenting. Anyway, yep. Let's see if I can pick it out. Are you seeing in
I'm seeing your Infinity screen.
Okay, hold on. Yep.
Oh, I just saw a Copilot window. Was that what you're using?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So then, my bad. I misunderstood then what you said, because I thought
Oh,
you
you're
are
using the
in Visual
browser.
Studio Code. I
No.
didn't realize you're in the chat interface. No, you gotta let
No,
that go.
that's what I heard too. That's what I
Yeah.
understood. Yeah, you got to
Don't
get out of
use
the
it.
chat interface.
No,
no.
no.
Cut paste workflow is horrible.
Oh, okay.
It's time to get out. Figure out the next step on that one.
Okay.
I clung to it way too long, but
Okay. God, how the heck do I get out of that?
you just got to present a different window, not your
Entire
browser.
screen. Okay.
You can present like a single tab if you want, if you're showing a chat or a Copilot window inside of Chrome or something like that, or you can just do the full screen.
Okay, I'm going to show something else.
And then Meet should minimize. But yeah, if you're just using it in the browser, that's none of our recent suggestions are going to help out with that.
Okay, this is where ask anything. That's where I'm putting in
Right.
my comments.
Okay, that's why the drop down says, okay, now it all makes a bit more sense what you were saying in terms of the choices you get. Yeah, so.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I like Windsurf, and I would guess Harold sort of uses it too. Is that you can do exactly that, except you can choose models from multiple providers, and you can switch in the same session to a completely different AI engine.
Okay.
I'll +1 everything that Karim just said. With Windsurf. That's what I used to do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I'm sorry for hijacking, but let me just share my screen. Can you see my screen? I don't know what you can see, and I'm on a Mac that I don't know how to use well. So I think you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
Visual
this is
Studio.
exactly. So in Visual Studio Code, and this is C stuff. This is my almost 10-year-old code base that I was asking for help in understanding how stuff works and playing with different models. But this is the interface you get with the Copilot that's built into there. So the GitHub Copilot. I know it's confusing. It's also called Copilot, but this is specifically called GitHub Copilot. And so that's what I was talking about in model selection down here, right? So you get, and I got Opus 4.5 just showed up here. So you get to choose the model. They have pros and cons. Again, these cost, well, I get 300 requests with my $20 a month account with these models down here. Those are all the real smart ones, and some of them are still decent, but only a third. And then for real simple stuff, reformatting a small section of code, maybe aligning some columns, you can use stuff that's basically free. Now, I don't remember what the choices are, what happens when you're in just a free GitHub account, right? There's, like Karim said, you're going to run up against some limits real quick, and you may not even get all these latest and greatest model, right? So again, GPT 5.1 Codex and Codex Max, which is not here yet, is top of the line. Gemini 3 Pro, then you have the Opus 4.5 and Sonnet 4.5. So that stuff just has significantly better results than some of the cheaper models or the stuff that's basically free. It makes a huge difference.
Okay.
And that's, you can select, and then again, I don't know, Karim or Harold, if you guys have used the plan mode yet. I haven't played with the plan mode. That's what folks were saying, right? Where if you're really trying to do serious stuff, you want to ask it first to put a plan together, or even in agent mode, you can ask it, hey, put me a spec together first. But you have these different modes of using. If you're in ask mode, you basically usually won't change any code directly. You're literally just asking questions about the code base. But usually you want to be in agent mode, because it can invoke tools and search for stuff, and it makes most sense to be in agent mode. And if you don't want it to generate code, you just tell it not to generate code and just give you ideas or give you documents. And then here, what I was saying about the MD files, right? So there is this various MD files you can have, like this one, which I asked it to auto generate, or you can manually generate it. It'll you want it to you want to give it all this context about your code base without it having to figure it out again and again every single time. So this is auto generated. It's pretty decent. I would probably throw in some additional things, but that way, every time I ask it to do something, it'll automatically look at this document, right, which gives it a full overview of this code base. And this is not trivial stuff. This is not just a handful of files. This is stuff that runs on the robot. There's a GUI that runs on the PC. There's a simulation environment. So there's it now has all that context of this full code base that you can refer to as needed. And it just won't have to figure it out every time again and again. Because every time it figures something out from scratch, which it can, right, there's a chance that it gets it wrong, right? So that way, the more that you give it explicitly, the less you have to deal with sort of this non-deterministic behavior that you sometimes get with these models. The other thing I just want to point out real quick, and that's why I'm sharing, is so I also have the OpenAI Codex extension, installed. So it's the same thing as GitHub Copilot, but that one comes straight from OpenAI. So if you already have an OpenAI account and paying $20 a month there, right? Boom! Now you're tapping into that basically, which I have. So I can do that. It's more or less the same thing. Again, I'm still trying to figure out what works best here. Same for Gemini, right? If you have a Google account that you're paying for, you can use the Gemini extension. Again, similar deal as the GitHub Copilot. So there are these separate extensions, but the GitHub Copilot, you can get started with that for free in Visual Studio Code. So that should be your next step, really.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks for the advice there.
And I would
Yes.
start your next project in plan mode. Just
In plan
give,
mode.
give it no freedom to like just jump straight to what it thinks you want.
Okay.
Got into plan mode a couple times, and it was kind of neat because I had it open the plan file as it was generating it. So it was literally making check boxes and outlines and all this kind of stuff, and I could sit there and watch it. And when it
You
completed
can go
those
edit
tasks,
it too.
yeah, and when it completed those tasks, it checked them off as it went. It was pretty cool, man. It was pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, the one of the things that tripped me up with testing these things, Steve's lawn or whatever, where the robot course was perfectly manicured and trimmed. I mean, you could even see like crosshatch marks where his I think it's like a $5,500 robot, had mowed. And where I was testing mine out, they're like little stalks with the seeds, grass seed on the top of the stalk, and there were a lot of them. And apparently that was just tripping the thing up left and right. It would, one of those would show up in the view of one of the sensors, and it'd say, "Oh my God, there's a huge obstacle there. I got to stop." And it just, I don't know, it got lost. So, but without it there, it probably would have done okay. So I should have done that last mowing to knock all those stalks down. But anyway, so yeah, I think that's a good strategy for the outdoor.
Did you earn a mug at least?
No, I didn't enter because
Oh.
the testing where I was
Just
testing it on my grass, I had all these seed pods or stalks, and the bumper would push them down, but the ones that were just in front of the bumper, it would trigger it and say, I've got to, basically couldn't move very far forward without hitting an obstacle, inches or less in some case. And so it was always trying to, correct or avoid the obstacle. And then it would see another obstacle because the same stalks would be, right out in front of it. But so, yeah, you got to have a, clear field or clear, mowed lawn, basically. So, but
well, in ROS, I set the minimum height to like 15 centimeters, or
yeah.
And so I guess you had pretty tall weeds.
Well, these sensors stick right out, and they're I don't know, maybe about 7 inches off the ground.
Ah, okay.
So,
oh, and they have a cone, yeah, because my three-dimensional sensors I have, I turned into a point cloud, and I told Ross to ignore stuff below a certain had to be a certain level off the ground before it would notice it as an obstacle.
yeah.
So would it pick up a stalk of grass, with seeds on the end that's a foot tall? Would it detect one or two of those as an obstacle?
Yep. Yeah. And the beam divergence on these are older units. I mean, I think the one I purchased like in 2015 is like 4 degrees, and the Benewakis that Scott was using, they're more like 2.3 degrees. So you get a pretty good cone not too far out. So as far as the beam spread.
Yeah, the VL the sensors I was using, they have the 8x8, and they're about 5 degrees for each of the sub sensors in it. Yeah.
Oh, is it 5? Yeah.
Because it's 8, 45 divided by 8.
Yeah. So, but then there's, Scott put a third one on there because if he has his two pointing out a little bit, there's, the center is wide open and you could, catch the obstacle of the right size. So I think at one point, Steve, for some reason, had a T-post stuck in the ground, and T-posts aren't, it's not very big. And I want to say one of Scott's robots caught the thing because it was too small to detect. But
Yeah, mine doesn't like things that are round and like an inch in diameter. I mean, I can't use it raw side. It doesn't see it for planning, and then sometimes it's just too late when it's moving to respond to it.
Yeah,
Especially if it's round, it has a small, signature. And
yeah, and I also found out that it doesn't. They don't seem to link dark things very well. You really need a pretty good reflective surface.
Mhm.
I call it Burning Man. It's a water heater that I converted into a burn barrel, and it's black, painted black, and it has to get like, I don't know, 3/4 of a meter or so away from it before it'll see it, because it is round and it's flat black, and it just doesn't reflect off it well. So, but anyway, yeah. So there were, I don't know, it came up with some pretty good suggestions, probably things I wouldn't thought of, or for like an initial crack at something you may not include because it's it's kind of maybe a next level or 2 levels up, as far as adding filtering versus not adding filtering. You probably should. So those suggestions were good, but I found doing it this way that it, like I said, the one night I just said, I'm giving up, sorry. It's making more of a mess of things, and it appeared to know about, so like let's see, what are they called, RMTs for ESP32s. And that's like being able to use the internal resources like timers. You can use RMTs for, and I hadn't gotten into reading the ESP32 manuals. Pretty much I would just go with straight pin definitions, hardware pin definitions. Like if it was designated as a serial port, I just use it. I wouldn't try to move it to another set of pins, or I2C, same thing there. Like the ones that were designated as I2C ports, I just use them as I2C ports and not try to move them around. So, but so I don't know. It's definitely pulling in resources that would take me a lot more time to figure out. But I guess in the end, if it doesn't generate useful code, what good is it? So anyway, well, thanks for the help on that.
It can generate useful code, but there's a little bit of a learning curve to kind of pull it all together, with the prompts and the setup and the right tools. It's all matters.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
But
I don't know what's worse, my programming or my English language skills for teaching the AI how to do my programming.
I'm
yeah,
thinking
actually, the version that I was using, it would come back and summarize things, and it was usually very succinct. It would sometimes use I don't know, how would you say it, like collimated data, like, okay, this is how this, or we're using this part, and this part is being used in this mode. We're using the Arduino framework. So it seemed like it would take my text and in very few words, or in very easy to read format summarized what I had said. So I thought that was kind of neat. It's like, yeah, okay. So you understand what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Copilot is going to do a good job when I ask it to convert my code into ROS lifecycle code, because it's pretty much just a turn the handle and grind to put all the code into the right functions and to get called sequentially. Because it should be something that it just understands. So I don't know if anybody's done that before. Because
I kind of wonder if Aider would do some of that. It seemed like Aider was, at least kind of the impression I got, it was, ROS specific or no.
Yeah, because I figured it's something that doesn't have to think very hard. It just has to do. So, and also I'm working on my documentation before I put it up on the shelf to get dusty for next year. And I was thinking of using the AI to summarize some of my code, like you're talking about, just to put it in my README document. Like I got these main modules, and this is sort of what they do.
So Mike, did you figure out what was happening so that you couldn't run your robot?
Yeah. Okay. ROS Navigator, the planner plans in the global map space, the global cost map space, and I only gave it a 100 meter by 100 meter map, or moving map that moves with the robot.
Mm-hmm.
I figured that's a lot, but then it's like, oh, scratch my head. Well, first of all, I went through and I realized that I just did some coding and put in different waypoints and found out when it complained. And it started complaining when the waypoints were like 50 meters away from the robot. And then I was looking through the codes, and especially the parameters of Navigator, and I looked at the global planner and said, oh, it's 150 by 150. The robot's in the center of that moving map, so it's 50 feet in each XY direction before, and anything outside that would be outside that range. So your moving map has to be the global map in ROS has to be as big as the planning space that you want to plan for, like a cone that's 100 meters away. So it has to be at least 200 meters by 200 meters because you're not sure which direction the cones are.
Wow.
So, so I changed this to 250, and I think it's stressing the CPU cycles a lot more now. It has to think about a bigger space, but it seemed to be able to plan for waypoints that are further away. And I tried a further away land space in mine, and the furthest one I was doing was like 80 meters in it, and it traversed that pretty good. So I did that out in my area here, and oh well. So I think I found it. I mean, it would have worked fine if I would have had like 2 or 3 waypoints on between the starting line and the first cone, because you go to one waypoint and then plan for the next waypoint and then plan for the next one. But of course, there's just a straight line. I didn't need any waypoints, right? Never thought of doing that. So that was it. Because people that weren't there, what happened was, I was running my test cases and it was all doing good. At home, it was finding the cones, and over there, it was just doing a simple go to waypoints, and come on, you can't go there. And and so So that's basically what it was. It was that.
It's
So.
it's a classic. It worked at home. So
It worked in the test conditions, and everything I did was less than 50 meters, obviously.
mhm.
So I said, it'll work fine. And I was just so stressed out or whatever. I just couldn't think of the options it could be. I was thinking it was a big static map that I had, but when I looked in my code, I arbitrarily set it to 2,000 meters by 2,000 meters. I said, there's no way that could be too small. It's an
Yeah.
empty map. So, yeah.
Well, even I don't know which one it was, but one of Scott's robots went haywire and
Yeah.
decided to try to drive through Steve's house. Spinning its tires on the foundation. Pressing on it.
That gave me hope until I put my robot on the starting line and it started stuttering. Go to waypoint. Go to waypoint. It would try to recalculate the waypoint over and over again, and it would fail each time.
Yeah.
Not a very robust recovery algorithm for, well, how do you recover from bad coding things? I don't know.
I guess, yeah, you find it out on contest day and change it afterwards.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so I'm just trying to button up my documentation now and
Moving on. Huh?
Moving on. I really want to work on it some, but it's holidays coming up, so I'm not going to work too hard. Like I really want to put the electronics inside the cabin and stuff like that. So, oh well. All that stuff is like a project. So.
Yeah, and even the one run on Scott's robot, it looked like it was going to decide to or try to go through the back door and front door of Steve's house.
Oh yeah.
Ram the porch. But I guess that might have been that, he was going up an incline to the back porch and the sensor may not have seen. You would think it would, well, I don't know. Maybe the wall of the porch was too far back and it wouldn't trigger, obstacle avoidance or something because it was so far back. So
Yeah. Because if I fixed that parameter, like one parameter, right? Well, it's two actually, the X dimension and the Y dimension for the map, for the cost map. If I would have fixed that or added some waypoints, I probably would have done a really decent job. Should have done, could have done.
Should have, would have, should have, could have.
There's always next year.
If only.
Yep. I was thinking, another thing that I was thinking is simulation would have caught this problem, but coming up with a simulation model and a reasonable outdoor gazebo model of hills and dales and slopes and stuff like that, it's probably a lot of work not to get much information out of. I'm sort of going, should I work on simulation and so I can work with the robot without having to go outside? Try to make it better. I'm not sure. I just know to do that is a big thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, thanks for the update, Mike.
Oh yeah. Sorry I was late. I was busy on a TV show and got lost time.
It's okay. Ray, thanks as well for the question. It was an interesting topic, using Copilot and AI to generate code. Some good responses from some of the guys. Does anyone have anything else to present tonight?
One quick follow-up to the AI discussion. One consequence of you asking the AI to generate code, unlike the code that you've written yourself and debugged and got it working, you're going to understand that code really, really well. If you generate code, And you're just not gonna know that code line by line, right? You just will not know exactly how it works until you spend the time reading it, understanding it line by line.
Yeah.
So you just have to think about that a little bit, right? Because and maybe sometimes that's okay, right? It's because sometimes, okay, you just need this thing, you need this code, you need it to do something, and maybe you care exactly how it works. You just want it to do the damn thing, right? But then it's just weird, right? Because again, you're so used to putting in the sweat, right? You create something, you understand it really, really well. And you don't, that goes away. You know, you have a black box to some extent, a gray box maybe, right? Because again,
Yeah.
you will read it over time, you'll get into it, but you start cranking out code with the AI, right? It's just I don't know,
Yeah.
Karim, what's your experience in that regard, right? Is it how you deal with the fact that you don't really understand all the code anymore?
Yeah. Right. Or it would take a whole lot more research, and I don't know how thick the manual is for ESP32s. I'm guessing several hundred pages, maybe even 1,000. I don't know.
Yeah, I see Karim looks like dropped off, but Harold, maybe you can comment. Right, again, the fact that you just don't understand all the code that gets generated. I mean, how do you deal with that? Is it a problem? Is it not a problem?
Yeah, it's sort of like Ross.
It's-
You would use a big project like Navigator, and it would, yeah, it works, but it has all these hundreds of parameters that you got to figure out. So but you're not sure what they do, and the documentation is not that great.
Yeah, it is a problem. It is a problem, and that's why I'll try things at once. That's why Git comes into play. Git, commit, and then let the thing go do whatever I think it's going to go do. And when I see it nut out, then I'm like, okay, hey, get rid of all that junk you just did because it's not working out for me, right? And that's also why I've developed the workflow of give me all the things you're going to do. Okay, you said you got 20 steps. Cool. Let's do step 1. Step 1 looks cool. Let me go look at that so I understand what you do. Okay, now step 2, now step 3, now step 3, 4, 5, whatever. Work through it. And at some point, it gets confident enough that I know it's going the wrong way, or the right way, whichever. Then I just let it go. But I understand. But I check in. I like we're good up to here. Cool. Now I make sure I commit that code because I can always back out if I need to, and I commit it locally. I don't push it up, so I'm always there. And then I can let it go and go forward and go crazy because there's certain things it tries to do, and some of it's really cool. Like I saw them using tuples and a few other things that are like, dude, I should use tuples, but I don't. That's not my go-to construct because I got like gray hair and stuff, right? But it's using those things. And I get it, and it's cool, but this other stuff you did is crap, so we can't use those. Let's back up, and we're going to run at it again. And there's been a few times, like for the feature I'm on right now with my client, I said, go do this thing, because I wasn't quite sure how to do it, and they said, oh, we're going to do this, 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 and this. And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. So when it screwed up, I backed everything out, said, listen, we're going to walk through this. We're going to make a side-by-side so we can do A/B comparisons, and we're going to start with just doing this. Give me the interfaces. Give me the stubs of that. Cool. And then we stepped into that and went deeper and deeper and deeper until my client told me today at about 1 in a meeting that said, all that stuff you've been doing for the last 3 days, we need you to shelve that because we might come back to it. What you really want is doing this other thing. And I'm like, okay, whatever you want me to do, Yeah, I'll come to your office and take out the garbage if that's what you want me to do to get value for you. I mean, that's my job, is to provide value. Some people think it's my job is to code, but that's not it. My job is to provide value, whichever way that is, whether it's using AI, banging on the keyboard, or taking out the trash in whatever literal or figurative way my client needs me to do. Does that make sense? That makes sense?
Yeah, but I understand all the Git stuff, but the code that gets generated, do you make an effort to actually fully understand
Yeah,
it? Or
I
you
read
just
it all.
Okay.
Yeah, I read it all. And as long as I may not have written that code, here's another thing that I found, which which is actually better, which is actually a really good thing. It will do things that I'm like, yeah, I know I need to do that, but I'm a high C and I really don't want to write that stupid code because it's never going to happen. But it doesn't know it's never going to happen and goes ahead and writes in guard codes and writes in checks for things that I would dismiss as a developer going, yeah, that's never going to be that way. But it saw it. It went ahead and did the code complete kind of thing on it. So it is doing those checks. And so that's a safety factor that I would have never done, but it did it. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Because it's one thing, but I'm in a different paradigm than the robots are when I'm doing my daily code. You know, I've got massive machines with massive stuff and all this, and literally the entire world of disk and CPU that I can even stand, right? When we're dealing with our robots and stuff, we may not have all of that. So those extra checks may actually mean something depending on what the thing is checking. You know, if it's checking whether a string is null or not, okay, cool. But if it's checking whether that's a valid number and that valid thing has to come out of a database somewhere, you know, that's a different story, right? Yeah,
Okay.
that makes, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. Got to hold off on my ADA box. I got my new ADA box in the mail today, and I was going to do an unboxing tomorrow night. And I've been informed, and Lady Ada said that we'd rather you not do unboxing until we do unboxing because we don't want to spoil it for anybody. And I'm like, oh, man. And I think this is going to be cool, too. I'm not even going to tell you what it is because that'd be an unboxing thing. So I just, it's going to be cool. I can just say that I got an ADA box, and in that ADA box came with a mini keyboard, Bluetooth keyboard. So I'm like, dude, it's gonna be fun.
So you have already unboxed it.
No, I opened the shipping box that it came in, and inside the shipping box that it came in, I have the ADA box with the keyboard on it. So, you know, the box is intact. Now what that keyboard does, I gotta admit, I did cheat a little bit, so I know what it is. But I'm not gonna tell anybody else. I'm just saying, I'll give you a clue. If you want to look real close at that, with all the stuff where you're doing the see-through letters, which anybody can see through on the website or whatever, all the stuff you need to know what's in this box is actually on that. If you piece together the puzzle of bits and pieces of the picture. But so yeah, I did cheat a little bit, but I did not open the ADA box, the ADA box problem. But I think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be a cool thing to play with.
We'll look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I'll show it as soon as I can. You know.
Yeah, show. Maybe you can present it next week.
Maybe. I don't know when they're going to do the proper unboxing on the thing because I went and looked for it, and it says the full guide will be published soon in conjunction with the upcoming unboxing event, and does not give a date. I suspect it'll probably be in the next week or so.
Okay. Did anyone see the updated terms and conditions for the Arduino IDE that were issued this week?
Nope.
I know EEV vlog right here, the Australian guy, he did have a video on it. I did fast forward a little bit. He kind of complained about it a little bit. So I know there's something there, but I don't know the details.
Yeah.
But he's basically saying it's gonna disappear. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Arduino is going away.
That's I think that there's going to be a user backlash on it because essentially at what point does using their ID becomes their creative content? So there's a huge Arduino infrastructure out there now that does not rely on the Arduino IDE. There's several different IDEs that you can use, and
Yeah.
not have to worry about it. So one of the things I did was look up Platform IO. Does it use the Arduino IDE? And it says absolutely not. If you're using Platform IO, they're using their own code base. They're using whatever. You can grab the libraries if they're public domain. And, most of the stuff is on GitHub as public. So it's going to be interesting what happens with it going forward, because it's without getting too far into it, there's, I guess, some legal language that infringes on who owns the data and that sort of stuff. So open source looks like it may be the end of open source for Arduino, because they're already saying some of the stuff is closed.
Hmm.
So.
Oh well. Yeah, my internet connection there froze. So what specifically? So there are no private projects. Everything is public, or?
Well, no. If you read through it, it was, I forget where I saw it. I don't know if I have a link to it in my email still. I'll just see if I can find something quickly here. In trash. In the inbox.
Wonder if they're going to introduce a small fee to use it. It's like, instead of a donation, it's like, yeah, you're going to have to subscribe.
That'll be a mess. While he's looking for that, there's something that did get open sourced in the last few days, a week or so. Zork 1, 2, and 3 is now in the open source MIT thing. So if you're a big Zork fan, which I am not, because I never really played the thing, but I know a lot of people are. If you'd like to go see the code and what it was written in and how it works and all that kind of stuff. And I've got a friend that pulled all that stuff down and started asking questions of his AI CLI tools. And it takes about 3 minutes to rip through all of that. Then once it does, you can start asking questions. Well, he had to teach it how the ZIL, the Zor's implementation, Zor's implementation language. He first had to teach his command line agent to how to understand that, and then told it to rip through the source code. So now you can start asking questions about it and getting the AI feedback on all the Zorks and things and all that kind of stuff. If you're so interested, it's out there for you for your perusal, and good fun. And I've got other fun things to do besides that, but still, figured I'd mention that. Actually, I was filling time, so Pat, I'm trying to do a little kibitz here and maybe a little interpretive dance for you to keep you, keep front of the curtain stuff.
Yeah, I'm not finding it here. If you look it up, Arduino terms and conditions, updated terms and conditions, you can read through the text of it. So that's it. I can't find it, so I'm not going to waste any more time.
Yeah, I posted a link to someone's blog site that talked about it.
Oh,
There you
no. Oh, no. I just looked at it in the Copilot little thing that came up in my Bing. The very first dot. Prohibition on reverse engineering. Users are explicitly forbidden from reverse engineering or attempting to understand how the platform works unless Arduino says you can. Oh, no. I give them the no. Okay, we're all moving to Python on my ESP32s.
Well, you can use Platform IO for your ESP32s as well. And
Yeah, so is all of this just about the IDE?
this is to do with the IDE. And there's quite a bit in it.
And I've never was a fan of it, and it's convenient, but yeah, I think exactly Platform IO, or it's fine.
with the restrictions they're putting, it's starting with the IDE, the restrictions on reverse engineering, and at what point does it become reverse engineering some of the code that's used in the IDE or something else? So,
Well,
restrictions don't go.
unless you wanted to make your own IDE, why would you be interested, right?
Well, yeah, but there's others out there. So I use Platform IO basically. Is what I use for my C++ Arduino stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been resisting. I guess I need to go try Platform IO. Yeah. Have AI convert the Arduino to Platform IO.
I keep trying to do some stuff in MicroPython and stuff, and I keep always trying to go revert back to C++ Arduino.
Yeah,
There's
on a
a
microcontroller.
lot of libraries out there. It's awfully handy.
Yeah, and microcontrollers. Well, you want them to run fast with low power. So.
Anyways, does anyone have something else? Do we call it a night then?
All right. Well, thanks for waiting for me.
Okay. See you guys in December.
Take care.
All right. All right. Bye.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.